Here's the version of saving money that nobody talks about. Not the one where you cut everything fun and suffer your way to a bigger bank balance. The other one. The version where you build 10 habits so mundane and forgettable that your brain stops treating them as decisions, because that's how it actually works. Research from Duke University found that nearly half of what you do every day isn't a choice. It's automation. The people who've quietly built $100,000, $200,000, more figured out how to make saving boring on purpose. And boring, it turns out, is exactly the point. Here's what nobody in personal finance wants to admit. The reason most people struggle to save money has nothing to do with how much they earn, how motivated they are, or how badly they want a better financial future. It has to do with how many decisions they're making every single day. Research from Duke University found that up to 45% of your daily behaviors aren't decisions at all. They're habits, automatic patterns your brain runs without consulting you. You don't decide to check your phone first thing in the morning. You don't decide to grab coffee on the way to work. You don't decide to add something to your cart when you're bored at night. Your brain just does it because it's done it enough times before that the behavior became automatic. Now, here's where this gets interesting. Your brain has a finite amount of decision-making energy each day. Psychologists call it decision fatigue. Every choice you make, what to eat, what to wear, whether to buy this or wait on that, draws from the same limited pool. And by the time you've burned through 50 small decisions before noon, your brain is already looking for shortcuts. It defaults to easy. It defaults to now, and now almost always costs more than later. This is why financial willpower tends to collapse in the evening. You've been making decisions all day. Your resistance is depleted, and suddenly the $40 delivery order feels completely reasonable. The online cart gets checked out. The subscription you meant to cancel gets another month. It's not weakness, it's just how brains work under load. And here's the thing nobody tells you. The people who've quietly built $100,000, $200,000 in savings didn't succeed because they had more willpower than you. They didn't white-knuckle their way through every temptation. They just set up their lives so that fewer spending decisions were required. They automated the boring stuff. They built habits that ran without them. Research from Stanford's Behavioral Science Lab confirms what most people figure out too late. Willpower is not a personality trait. It's a resource. It depletes. And the people who rely on it to save money are fighting their own biology every single day. The people who actually win stopped relying on it entirely. That's the frame for everything that follows. These 10 habits aren't about motivation. They're not about cutting your life down to nothing or finding some inner reservoir of discipline you haven't tapped yet. They're about removing decisions, about making the boring choice so automatic that your brain stops treating it as a choice at all. Because every decision you don't have to make is mental energy preserved for something that actually matters. And every habit that runs on autopilot is a small financial win that compounds over months and years without you ever having to think about it again. The year I stopped trying to save money was the year I actually started saving it. I stopped budgeting with willpower and started building systems. I stopped relying on feeling motivated and started making things automatic. Not exciting, not something worth posting about, just boring, invisible, consistent habits that did the work while I was busy living my life. So here they are, 10 boring habits. Let's get into it. Habit 1. Delete the shopping apps from your phone. This one sounds almost insultingly simple. Delete the apps. That's the entire habit. And before you move on, because that sounds too obvious to be useful, stay with me. Because the psychology underneath this runs much deeper than the action itself suggests. Most people assume they overspend online because they're impulsive. They see something, they want it, they buy it, and they feel a little guilty afterward. That's the story they tell themselves. But that's not actually what's happening. The problem isn't that you're weak when tempted. The problem is that you're being tempted constantly, in small, invisible ways, and you don't notice it's happening until the money is already gone. Every time you open a shopping app when you're bored, even if you buy nothing. Your brain activates the same reward circuitry as an actual purchase. The browsing itself feels good. The scrolling feels good. Imagining the item in your home or your wardrobe, picturing how it might fit into your life, that's already triggering dopamine, and your brain files that away. It learns, when I'm bored, this is where I go. This is the thing that makes me feel something. Do that once a week for a few months, and you've built a spending habit so automatic you'd never describe it as a habit. You'd just call it something you do. Checking your apps, browsing your favorite stores, seeing what's new, adding things to carts for later. It feels passive, it feels harmless, but your brain is being trained, one scroll at a time, to associate any idle moment with the possibility of buying something. And here's what makes this particular habit so expensive. You don't have to intend to buy anything. You just have to be present in the environment, because the apps are designed meticulously, expensively, by some of the smartest product teams in the world to convert your idle attention into purchases. The notifications exist for this. The personalized recommendations exist for this. The one-click checkout exists for this. You're not failing to resist temptation. You're being outgunned by engineers whose job is to make sure you don't. So the habit isn't about willpower. It isn't about learning to resist. It's about removing yourself from the environment entirely, because that's the only strategy that actually works against a system built to beat you. Delete the apps. Not mute them, not move them to a folder, not set screen time limits. Delete them, because if the environment is gone, the decision doesn't happen. And if the decision doesn't happen, neither does the spending. That's not deprivation. That's environment design. The research behind why makes it even clearer. Research from Stanford's Consumer Psychology Lab found that simply browsing, without any intent to purchase, activates the same reward circuitry as actually buying something. The exposure alone is enough. Repeated exposure builds a groove your brain returns to automatically when it wants a dopamine hit. Delete the apps, remove the groove, one less decision, one less automatic drain. Habit 2, cook the same meals every week. This sounds like advice you'd reject outright at a dinner party. Eat the same things on rotation, every week, on purpose. But the psychology here has nothing to do with food. It's about what food decisions cost you, not at the grocery store, but mentally. Research from Cornell University's Food and Brand Lab found that the average person makes over 200 food-related decisions every single day. What's for breakfast? Whether to pack lunch or buy it. What to get from the cafe? Whether tonight is a cooking night or a delivery night. Each one feels small. Together, they're relentless. And by the time you've burned through 50 of them before noon, you're already low on the mental fuel that's supposed to protect your wallet later. When you rotate the same 4 or 5 meals every week, the same grocery list, the same prep, the same rough schedule, your brain stops treating meals as something requiring active thought. They become automatic. Your grocery bill becomes predictable. And the delivery app orders, the ones that appear when you're standing in the kitchen at 7 p.m. with no plan and no energy, stop materializing. Not because you resisted, because the decision was never required. Boring. Yes, but boring is where your money grows. Habit 3. The 48-hour rule for any non-essential purchase. The desire to own something new arrives fast and feels urgent. It has an electrical quality. You see the thing, you want the thing, you start picturing it already in your life. What most people never discover is that this feeling has an expiry date. They buy before they find out what it is. A study from the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that the emotional intensity of wanting something drops significantly within 24 to 48 hours of first exposure. Without any deliberate effort. You don't have to talk yourself out of it. You just have to wait. And most of the time, the thing you had to have on Monday feels genuinely optional by Wednesday. The mechanics are simple. When you see something you want, add it to a list on your phone and wait 48 hours. If the desire survives, buy it with intention. But research suggests you'll go back to roughly 70% of those items and feel nothing much at all. The wanting passed, the money stayed. That's not willpower. That's desire decay working in your favor. Habit 4. Audit your subscriptions every month. If asked right now to list every subscription you're paying for and add up the total, most people would come up short by a meaningful amount. Not dramatically, just enough. An old streaming service still running because canceling felt like one more task. A fitness app from a January resolution. A software trial that converted to paid without much notice. A premium tier for something you use on the free version anyway. Research on subscription spending consistently finds that people underestimate their monthly recurring charges by an average of 40%. That's not recklessness. That's design. Subscriptions are built to feel small enough to ignore and automatic enough to stop requiring a decision after the first one. The most expensive subscriptions are the ones that never surface in your mind because they stopped feeling like choices. The habit is a monthly calendar reminder. 15 minutes. You open your bank statement, find every recurring charge, and ask one question. Did I actually use this last month? Not will I use it. That question keeps dead subscriptions alive indefinitely. Did I use it last month? If no, cancel before you close the tab. This one habit alone saves most people $200 to $400 per year. Not because they were careless, because they were human. Habit 5. Wear your clothes. All of them. The ones in the back. The ones you forgot you owned. The ones bought with a specific occasion in mind and then left unworn because the occasion never came. Research from the American Apparel and Footwear Association found that the average American buys around 68 new garments a year, while simultaneously describing their wardrobe as something they're not satisfied with. The problem is never a shortage of clothes. It's a psychological mechanism researchers call wardrobe fatigue. Not from wearing things repeatedly, but from the social pressure to appear novel. Your brain worries that people will notice you wore that already. They won't. Studies on social perception consistently show that we track other people's appearances far less than we assume. Everyone is too occupied managing their own. The reframe that makes this habit work: cost per wear. A $150 jacket worn 50 times costs $3 per use. A $40 jacket worn twice costs $20. The expensive item is often the cheaper one. Wearing things until they're genuinely finished, not just until something new looks tempting, isn't sacrifice. It's the sharper financial behavior. And the side effect is useful. You learn exactly what you actually reach for, which makes you a much better buyer the next time you spend money on something new. Habit 6. Unsubscribe from every retail email list. Not the ones you don't like, all of them. The average retail brand sends 3 to 5 promotional emails per week across your favorite stores. That's 50 to 100 purchasing invitations landing in your inbox every month, each one engineered by a conversion team whose job is to make you click. You are not fighting spam. You are fighting professionally optimized, behaviorally targeted desire, and it works. Not because you're weak, because it's designed to. Unsubscribe from all of it. The purchase you never see cannot tempt you. Habit 7. Buy used before you buy new. The instinct when you need something, a piece of furniture, a piece of equipment, a tool you'll use 3 times a year, is to go directly to retail. New feels clean. New feels certain. But the price gap between new and used for most durable goods is anywhere between 40 and 70%, and the used version functions identically. Research on consumer purchasing from the Journal of Marketing found that the discomfort people feel with secondhand goods, what psychologists call contamination aversion, largely disappears for impersonal items. Clothing carries associations. Furniture doesn't. A used bookshelf, a second-hand stand mixer, a refurbished laptop, none carry the history of their previous owner in any meaningful sense. Your brain treats them as lesser anyway. That's what the retail industry counts on. The habit is a single check before any significant purchase. Search the item used first. If it exists in good condition at a meaningful discount, buy that. If it doesn't, buy new with a clear conscience. Most of the time it exists. And most of the time the money you save is real and immediate and requires nothing except a slightly different search. Habit 8. Track every expense. Daily. 3 minutes before bed. Budgeting gets avoided because it feels like being put on trial for your own choices. You open a spreadsheet and the whole exercise starts to feel punitive before you've typed a single number. That framing is wrong, and it's why most budgeting attempts collapse within 2 weeks. Research from the University of Cambridge on financial behavior found that people who track their spending daily, without any pressure to change anything, naturally reduce their spending by an average of 15% within 3 months. Not because they were restricting themselves, because awareness changes behavior on its own. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. When you give it data about your own habits, it starts self-correcting without being told to. The actual habit is 3 minutes before bed. Open a notes app or a simple spreadsheet and log what you spent. Not to judge it, to see it. Log your mood alongside purchases when you notice a pattern forming. Note whether something felt intentional or impulsive. You're collecting information, not issuing verdicts. The patterns surface on their own. The stress spending, the evening impulse buys, the grocery bill that spikes every time you skip planning. Once you see a pattern clearly, you can't unsee it. And that's when behavior shifts, quietly, without you forcing anything at all. That's not budgeting. That's information doing the work willpower was supposed to do. Habit 9. Pay yourself first, automatically, before the money ever touches your checking account. Most people save what's left after spending. The problem is nothing is ever left. Research from Harvard on spending behavior found that people reliably spend up to the amount available in their account after fixed expenses. If $600 remains, $600 disappears. It's not recklessness. It's not carelessness. It's just how availability works. Money you can see feels spendable. Money you never see never enters the calculation. Set up an automatic transfer to savings or investments the same day your paycheck lands, before groceries, before fun, before you've seen the balance. The transfer runs, the money moves, and your brain adapts to living on what remains. Not because you disciplined yourself into it, but because the money is simply no longer present to be spent. Stanford research on financial automation found that people who saved this way reported the same life satisfaction as people who earned more but saved less. Mental accounting does the work. Money sitting in a savings account stops feeling immediately available. It becomes untouchable. Untouchable money compounds. $500 per month automated from age 25 at a 7% annual return becomes over $1.3 million by retirement. That's not a saving strategy. That's an automatic transfer running in the background of your life. That's boring. That's the point. Habit 10. Stop waiting for saving to feel good. There's no morning you wake up and find that financial discipline has become effortless. That's not how this ends. What happens instead is that the habits become automatic. You stop noticing you're running them. The decision disappears, and life just continues. Slightly leaner, significantly more stable, without requiring your attention or your willpower. That's the real 10th habit, not a specific behavior. An acceptance of the frame. Boring is the strategy. Repetitive is the method. Forgettable is the point. Wealth isn't built in the moments when you feel inspired to save. It's built in automated, invisible, unremarkable choices that happen whether or not you're paying attention. So there they are. Delete the shopping apps. Eat the same meals on rotation. Wait 48 hours before buying anything non-essential. Audit your subscriptions every month. Wear the clothes you already own. Unsubscribe from every retail email. Buy used before you buy new. Track your spending for 3 minutes every night. Pay yourself before you pay for anything else. And stop waiting for boring to feel like enough. None of it is exciting. None of it gets anyone likes. None of it looks like living your best life. And that's exactly why it works. Because here's what nobody tells you about building real wealth. It doesn't happen in moments of inspiration. It doesn't happen when you finally feel motivated enough. It happens in the boring, repeatable, forgettable habits that run whether or not you remember setting them up. You're not broken if this has felt hard. You're not undisciplined. You're just someone who is trying to fight their brain instead of working with it. And now you know you don't have to. These 10 habits don't require more from you. They require less. Less deciding, less resisting. Less relying on a version of yourself who shows up perfectly every single day. Just boring, automated, unsexy systems doing the work while you live your life. That's it. That's how the money grows.